Let your eyes grow heavy, your breath slow and steady. Tonight, we journey to a world long buried beneath layers of silence and time. A world without kings, without war, yet with flowing water, bustling cities, and quiet genius. Let the story of the Indus Valley cradle your thoughts like a forgotten lullaby rediscovered beneath ancient stones. Before the rise of Rome, before the pyramids reached for the skies, and before writing lit up the world with memory, there was a quiet civilization, a people who built vast cities from brick and earth, aligned their homes with the wind, and etched strange symbols into clay that still remain undeciphered today. This is the story of the Indus Valley Civilization, also known as Harappan Civilization, one of the world's oldest and most advanced ancient cultures, yet also one of its greatest mysteries. We begin not in the ancient past, but in the year 1856, in what is now Pakistan. Two British engineers were laying tracks for a railway between Lahore and Karachi. Workers near the town of Harappa dug through mounds of baked bricks, some stamped with strange symbols. They had unknowingly uncovered a buried city, one whose very existence had been forgotten for over 3,000 years. For decades, these ruins were ignored. Some bricks were taken to build the railway itself. But then came the 1920s. An Indian archaeologist named Rakal Das Banerjee explored another site, Mohenjo-Daro, near the Indus River. What he found mirrored Harappa, vast urban ruins, organized roads, and artifacts unlike anything known from India's recorded history. Slowly, the scale became clear. Harappa wasn't alone. Dozens of cities were buried under the sands of the Indus River basin, stretching across what is now Pakistan, northwest India, and eastern Afghanistan. This was no lost village. It was a vast, sophisticated civilization that flourished for over 700 years, beginning as early as 3,300 BCE. At its peak, it covered 1.25 million square kilometers, larger than Mesopotamia or ancient Egypt. Its population may have reached over 5 million, thriving in a time when much of the world still lived in small farming villages. And yet, unlike Egypt or Mesopotamia, there are no towering monuments, no statues of kings, no battle scenes carved into stone, no royal tombs. It is a civilization without visible ego, without glory or conquest, and that is what makes it so deeply peaceful and perfect for sleep. The Indus people lived along the Indus River, which flowed gently from the Himalayas down into the Arabian Sea. Its waters gave them fertile soil, irrigation, and life. The name India itself comes from this river. They built their cities not chaotically, but with great care. Straight streets, gridded blocks, homes facing the wind for ventilation. Some even had multi-room houses with private bathrooms in 2600 BCE. Let that sink in. As the pyramids were being built in Egypt, Indus cities already had drains, sewage systems, and public bathing areas. There were two main cities we know of, Harappa in the north and Mohenjo-Daro in the south. But there were hundreds more, Dholavira, Lothal, Kalibangan, and many unnamed towns now crumbled to dust. What's so striking is how similar they were, as if all built from a shared blueprint. The bricks were the same size, the streets the same width, the drains aligned beneath homes. There was no grand palace, no towering temple. Power was likely shared, or subtle. Some believe they had a council-based system, a civilization of engineers, planners, and peaceful traders. In Mohenjo-Daro, there's a structure called the Great Bath, a large sunken rectangle made of finely fitted bricks, coated in natural tar to hold water. Surrounding it are small rooms and stairways. Was it a public bath, a ritual space, a place for purification? No one knows. Even the seals they left behind, small carved squares of stone, contain animals, people, and symbols in a script that has never been decoded. Hundreds have been found, but not a single sentence can be translated. The writing is pre-Sanskrit, not related to any known language, and may have been a mix of sound and symbol. Some seals show unicorn-like animals, others show humans in yoga poses. One famous seal depicts a horned figure sitting cross-legged, often called the Proto-Shiva, a possible ancestor of Hindu beliefs. And yet, this civilization left behind no written history, no records of kings, no chronicles of war, no epic poems, only bricks, drains, toys, ornaments, and a deep, calm silence. They made toys for children, wheeled carts, clay figurines of animals, rattles. They crafted jewelry from gold, carnelian, and shell. They used standardized weights and measures, suggesting central regulation and trust in trade. But then, around 1900 BCE, something began to change. The cities started to decline. Drainage systems stopped being cleaned. Streets filled with debris. People began to leave. No signs of mass violence, no burning, no sudden destruction. It was quiet, gradual, mysterious. Some say the rivers shifted, drying up their lifeline. Others blame climate change, drought, or earthquakes. Trade routes collapsed. The script was forgotten. The cities were buried. And for 3,000 years, the Indus Valley Civilization vanished from memory. But tonight it awakens again, not with noise, not with glory, but with the soft whisper of wind through an ancient city, a place where people once bathed under open skies, where children played on dusty streets, where symbols were carved not to conquer, but to communicate. You are now walking the silent roads of Mohenjo-Daro. The stars above you are the same stars they saw. You feel the breeze from the Indus, the warm brick beneath your feet, the timeless hush of a world long gone. Let your thoughts slow, let your breath deepen, and let this forgotten civilization carry you gently into sleep. Tonight, we don't walk with kings or generals. We walk with the quiet ones, with the potters, the bakers, the children chasing clay carts down winding streets, the mothers stirring lentils as the last light of day fades. This is not the history of glory. This is the history of daily life, the kind that builds civilizations slowly, gently, one brick at a time. The cities of the Indus Valley were not built in a day, nor were they carved from stone in the name of ego. They rose steadily, brick by brick, over centuries. And in their steady walls we find not the echoes of conquest, but of care, cleanliness, and calm routine. Close your eyes and imagine a city with no palace, no temple towering over the people, no statue of a ruler. Yet there is order, there is beauty, there is balance. You are walking through Mohenjo-Daro, one of the greatest cities of the ancient world. The sun is warm, but the air moves gently. The streets are straight, wide, and dusty, paved with baked bricks made thousands of years ago. Each block is part of a larger grid, carefully aligned, not haphazard like so many ancient cities, but planned. Houses line the streets, two-story homes, their bricks worn but still standing. Each has its own unique doorway. Many have internal courtyards, open to the sky. Some even have stairs leading to rooftops where laundry once hung and conversations drifted into the air like incense. Step inside one. The interior is dim but cool. The walls are smooth. In the corner sits a terracotta stove, blackened by years of cooking lentils, wheat, and barley. Against another wall, storage jars sealed with cloth. A small child's toy, a wheeled ram made of clay, lies by the doorway. Someone once played here centuries ago. Someone once laughed here. And then, in the back of the house, a marvel, a private bathroom, a platform for bathing, with a sloped drain that leads outside into a city-wide underground sewage system. Yes, thousands of years before the Roman aqueduct, before the flush toilet, before the modern grid, the Indus cities had plumbing. Every house was connected to a drain. Waste flowed through covered channels, carried away by water, out of sight, out of smell. There were even manholes in the street for maintenance. This wasn't just engineering. It was care. Care for the collective. Many homes also had wells, not shared with the city, but private wells built inside courtyards. Imagine that. Drawing clean water from your own stone-lined well in 2600 BCE. It's not a luxury, it's normal here, and the city didn't stop caring once you left your home. At key intersections there were public bath areas, stone platforms with drains for communal washing. Hygiene wasn't a suggestion, it was culture. But how did these people make a living? Across the street a craftsman works clay into pots. His wheel spins slowly, powered by hand. Beside him, terracotta figurines dry in the sun. Horses, bulls, birds. These are not mass-produced. Each is unique, shaped by fingers long turned to dust. Another street leads to a marketplace. There are counters made of brick with small recesses that once held scales and weights. Traders exchange grain, beads, copper tools, and maybe, in hushed deals, rare gemstones brought by caravan from distant lands. Behind them, signs of organized storage, granaries for food, warehouses for goods. Everything here whispers coordination, not chaos. But here's something strange. Among all these riches, there is no evidence of a ruling class. There are no palaces with golden gates, no graves filled with treasure, no murals celebrating a king's victory. In fact, the graves we've found are remarkably equal. Rich and poor, if those divisions even existed, were buried in similar ways. This leads many scholars to believe that the Indus Valley was perhaps a cooperative society, one where shared responsibility and communal welfare mattered more than individual power. Even their tools of trade show unity. Across hundreds of miles, the people used the same type of bricks, each precisely 28 by 14 by 7 centimeters. Their weights and measures were standardized, tiny cube weights carved from stone in exact ratios. That means someone, somewhere ensured fairness. No one empire, no one king. And yet, a civilization that stretched farther than Mesopotamia and lasted longer than the Akkadian Empire. So, what did people eat? Most families cooked lentils, wheat, barley, and millets. They used spices. Evidence of turmeric, ginger, and garlic has been found. They raised cattle, water buffalo, pigs, and chickens. And in coastal cities like Lothal, they caught fish and shellfish. They cooked on terracotta stoves and drank from painted goblets. They likely shared meals together on rooftops in the cool evening air, watching the sun set beyond the brown hills. And what about the children? They played. We found toys, whistles shaped like birds, clay carts with tiny wheels, spinning tops, marbles. One of the oldest board games in the world may have come from here. Imagine a child laughing on a flat rooftop, spinning a top beneath a sky filled with stars. No armies marching, no fire in the distance, just the sounds of birds, a mother calling, and a world at peace. Even their art reflects serenity. There is no violence depicted, no grand tales of domination, just animals, trees, dancers, and spiritual symbols. The famous bronze dancing girl statue, a small figurine of a young girl standing with one hand on her hip, suggests a culture that appreciated grace, movement, and expression. And through it all, the river flowed. The Indus and its tributaries, the Ravi, Beas, Sutlej, Gagar, Hakra, gave life to this land. The people built canals. They timed their farming with the monsoon. They lived with nature, not against it. But time is never still. We'll explore their trade, their mysteries, and their silent fall in the next chapters. But for now, let your mind rest in the cool shade of an ancient home. Let the sound of trickling water from an old clay jar slow your heartbeat. Let the breeze that once danced through the streets of Harappa now soothe your thoughts. The Indus people never left a single word we can read, but their cities still speak. And what they say is this: we lived, we built, we cared. Let their message echo gently as you fall deeper into sleep. Tonight, the quiet hum of markets fills the warm air. There are no shouts, no haggling, no coin clatter, only hands exchanging goods, smiles shared between merchants, and carts rolling slowly toward distant lands. This is not the economy of conquest. It is the economy of harmony. Let us drift into the calm, steady heartbeat of one of the world's first organized economies. Imagine a city without kings, yet rich in design, without temples, yet rich in coordination, without money, yet thriving in trade. This is the paradox and the beauty of the Indus Valley economy. The cities were not just homes and wells and bricks. They were centers of trade, humming with quiet exchange. Goods did not pile up to glorify a ruler. They moved consistently across rivers, deserts, and seas, and they did so with organization and trust. The Indus people did not use coins. There is no evidence of a currency system like those later used in Lydia or Greece. But there was value, and there was measurement. Across all major sites, Harappa, Mohenjo-Daro, Lothal, Dholavira, archaeologists have discovered carefully crafted weights made from chert, a type of hard stone. These weights followed binary and decimal systems, standardized and precise right down to the smallest unit. Imagine a merchant weighing carnelian beads in one hand and a set of cube-shaped stone weights in the other. He doesn't need a royal mint or paper money. He needs trust and consistency. That's how this civilization functioned. Goods flowed not just from city to city, but beyond borders. Seals from the Indus Valley, those tiny engraved squares with animals and symbols, have been found in Mesopotamia, over 2,000 kilometers away. Mesopotamian tablets mention a mysterious trading partner called Meluha, widely believed to be the Indus region. From the docks of Ur and Sumer, ships arrived bearing timber, ivory, lapis lazuli, and cotton cloth. They traded these for copper, tin, silver, and dates. The Indus cities, especially Lothal, had docks and warehouses designed specifically for sea trade. Some believe they even built tide-controlled basins, an early form of a port. Let that sink in. 4,000 years ago, people of the Indus were sailing the Arabian Sea, trading with distant cultures using standard weights, dock infrastructure, and goods that reflected both function and beauty. What were they trading? Start with beads, tiny, intricate, made of semi-precious stones like carnelian, agate, steatite, and lapis lazuli. These weren't just ornaments. They were symbols of beauty, skill, and trade power. Some beads were shaped with drills finer than a human hair. Even today, their precision baffles us. There were tools too, chisels, knives, saws, made of copper or bronze, their handles long gone, but their utility clear. And pottery, painted, polished, with geometric patterns and animal motifs. Each region had its style, yet the visual language stayed unified. Their textiles, though mostly vanished, left behind impressions in clay and remnants of spindle whorls, small round weights used to spin thread. The Indus Valley people may have been among the first to spin and weave cotton, a legacy that continues in India today. But perhaps the most astonishing innovation wasn't just what they made, it was how they organized production. Many cities had entire districts devoted to crafts and industry. Mohenjo-Daro, for instance, had zones for bead making, shell working, pottery kilns, and copper smelting. Furnaces were built with chimneys to control smoke flow, the earliest known examples in history. These were not primitive workshops, these were early factories, standardized, clean, and segmented by trade type. Even waste was managed. Debris from bead making was swept into dedicated piles. Ash and slag from metalwork was disposed of separately. It wasn't just what they created, it was how they sustained it. with systems. Now imagine, a caravan loaded with carnelian beads leaves Dholavira. It crosses dry salt plains, guided by stars. After weeks of travel, it reaches Mesopotamia. There, someone holds a bead, its deep red surface still smooth, and asks, "Who made this?" No one knows their names. But the system, the quiet order behind that bead, speaks louder than any ruler ever could. Innovation wasn't limited to trade. It flowed into architecture, urban planning, agriculture, and even metrology, the science of measurement. Take their cities again. Most were built on raised platforms, artificial hills made of layers of dirt and mud brick. Why? To protect them from floods. They understood the river, its gifts and its dangers, and built accordingly. Their cities were laid out according to cardinal directions, with streets running north-south and east-west. This alignment helped with wind flow and sunlight, early passive climate control. Their bricks weren't random either. They used ratios of 4 to 2 to 1, length to width to height. This allowed them to be stacked in stable, interlocking ways. Even today, architects admire this proportional thinking. In Dholavira, city planning reached another level. The city was divided into 3 distinct zones, each with its own walls, water tanks, and drainage. Some scholars believe this represents a social structure, while others see it as administrative zones. And water. Oh, how they respected water. In an arid region, they built enormous reservoirs, stone-lined and stepped, collecting rainwater with incredible precision. Dholavira had dozens of these tanks, connected by channels and controlled with sluice gates. This wasn't just engineering. This was water worship, a culture of conservation, long before the word existed. Their agriculture, too, was intelligent. They planted wheat, barley, peas, sesame, and dates, rotating crops according to season. Fields were irrigated with canals, fed by both river and rain. And they didn't overbuild. There's little evidence of deforestation or soil exhaustion. The land gave and they returned the favor. So, what held all this together? There were no emperors. No militaries, as far as we know. Perhaps the glue was shared culture, trade trust, and mutual prosperity. Perhaps they were bound not by fear, but by the quiet power of cooperation. A bead maker in Harappa, a potter in Mohenjo-Daro, a sailor in Lothal. None knew each other, but they followed the same measurements. They used the same bricks. They sent goods down the same river, beneath the same sun. They trusted the system, and for hundreds of years, through floods, droughts, and time, it worked. As you rest tonight, let your thoughts drift to the slow rhythm of ancient trade. The quiet ring of a hammer shaping copper, the gentle splash of a boat leaving the dock, the whisper of wind through kiln chimneys. Innovation is not always loud. Sometimes it hums softly, brick by brick, bead by bead, flowing like a river. And the Indus Valley was a river of quiet brilliance. Somewhere, buried beneath earth and time, lie symbols pressed into wet clay, hundreds of them etched by steady hands and sharp minds. No one alive can read them now. No one knows their stories, and yet their meaning echoes still, in art, in ritual, in the silent rhythm of forgotten gods. Tonight we listen not with our ears, but with our breath, and with stillness. In most ancient civilizations, power is loud. Gods roar from mountaintops. Kings build monuments to reach the heavens. Deeds are carved into stone for eternity. But in the Indus Valley, culture was quiet. Their cities had no ziggurats, no towering idols, no royal proclamations, and yet their art, beliefs, and rituals whisper from every corner of their world. If you listen slowly enough, you can almost hear them. We begin with the script, the most mysterious legacy they left behind. across countless sites, from Mohenjo-Daro to Harappa, Dholavira to Kalibangan. Archaeologists have uncovered over 4,000 inscribed objects. Tiny seals, stone tablets, amulets, pots, tools, even pieces of copper, each marked with short rows of symbols, usually no more than 5 or 6 characters long. They are not pictographs like early Egyptian hieroglyphs, nor are they cuneiform like Sumerian. The script is made up of distinct symbols, some abstract, others resembling animals, tools, or human forms. They repeat in patterns. They follow grammatical consistency, but they are utterly undeciphered. No Rosetta Stone, no bilingual inscriptions, no clue what language they even spoke. Was it Dravidian? Proto-Munda? An isolate, unrelated to anything we know? Some scholars believe it wasn't a language at all, just religious or clan symbols. But the repetition, the grammar-like order, suggests otherwise. Still, for now, the Indus script remains silent, and yet their culture spoke through art. Let's look at the seals. Small, square carvings made of steatite, baked hard in fire. Many show animals, humped bulls, elephants, rhinoceroses, tigers, crocodiles, fish, and birds. Some animals are fantastical, like the unicorn bull, which doesn't exist in nature but appears often. Most seals are believed to have been used for trade or identity, stamped into soft clay to mark ownership or shipment. But their iconography is consistent, deliberate, and often spiritual. Take the Pashupati seal, one of the most famous. It depicts a horned figure, seated cross-legged on a platform, surrounded by animals, an elephant, a tiger, a water buffalo, and a rhinoceros. Beneath the seat, 2 deer rest calmly. The figure wears a headdress with tall branching horns. He faces forward, rare for Indus art, and appears in a yogic pose with arms resting on knees. Many believe this figure is a precursor to the Hindu god Shiva, especially in his form as Pashupati, Lord of the Animals. Could it be the earliest depiction of meditation, of spiritual calm, of a god not feared but still and centered? Other seals show mythical scenes, a human battling a tiger, a tree growing from a deity's head, horned beasts beneath star symbols, all of it rich with meaning, and all of it unspoken. But beliefs are not just found in art. They are found in space, in structure, in habit. Across Indus cities, we find areas that appear to be ritual zones, public baths, raised platforms, wells that seem communal. At Mohenjo-Daro, the Great Bath, a large sunken pool surrounded by a colonnade, may have been a place for ritual cleansing. It was carefully constructed, brick-lined, waterproofed with natural bitumen, accessible by stairways, and surrounded by private rooms. No river connects to it. Water was carried in, likely from wells, and drained through a smart system. The care given to this structure suggests it held spiritual significance, not as a temple, but as a sacred space for purification. Even the layout of the cities suggests cultural ideals. Homes were private but equal. Streets were clean with dedicated waste disposal systems. Public infrastructure was extensive. This was a culture that valued order, cleanliness, and symmetry, perhaps as forms of spiritual balance. And while we find no temples, we do find small shrines, fire altars, offering pits, figurines placed in niches. In Kalibangan, for instance, archaeologists discovered brick platforms with circular fire pits, possibly used for rituals similar to later Vedic ceremonies. And the figurines? They are humble, hand-shaped from terracotta. Some depict women with elaborate hair, heavy jewelry, and rounded features, often referred to as mother goddess figures. Some scholars believe these represent fertility, nurturing, or divine femininity. Others say they're simply dolls or toys. But their abundance and placement in homes, wells, and public areas hints at a belief in the sacred feminine. Other figurines show cattle, bulls, dogs, birds, and snakes, animals not just present in daily life, but likely imbued with spiritual meaning. In fact, animal worship may have been a core aspect of Indus belief. Bulls, in particular, appear everywhere, on seals, in art, even as small stone sculptures. Perhaps the bull was a symbol of strength, prosperity, or divine force. There is no evidence of mass burial rituals, no grand tombs, no embalming. The dead were buried simply, on their side in pit graves, often with a few items, pots, beads, tools. Some were cremated. This simplicity speaks again to a culture where the community outweighed the individual, where death was not glorified but accepted with peace. And then there is the absence of war. No weapons of warfare have been found. No swords, no shields, no armor. Only tools, axes, knives, spears, all small and likely utilitarian. No fortresses, no massacre pits, no carvings of conquest. Could this have been a non-violent society where defense was minimal and cooperation ruled? Even their art avoids violence. No scenes of battle, no hunting murals, no sacrifice altars, just animals, flowing patterns, and quiet faces. This lack of aggression may have been their strength, but perhaps later their weakness. A peaceful people, vulnerable to change. And yet they lasted centuries. Their culture, beliefs, and rituals continued unbroken, passed from city to city, person to person, generation to generation, not through written records, but through living habits. You can still see it today, in Indian cities with tight alleys and central courtyards, in water tanks and step wells, in the practice of yoga, in reverence for rivers, in the cow, still sacred, in the use of beads, bangles, and bindis, in the lingering rhythm of a civilization that never shouted, but always respected the balance between body, mind, and earth. Tonight, rest in that balance. Imagine a quiet shrine lit by oil lamps. A mother places an offering by a small figure. A child traces a symbol in clay. Outside, the moon reflects in the great bath. A bull walks silently past the well, and in the shadows, the soul of a people who believed that the sacred need not be carved in stone, only lived. Let your breath slow, let your thoughts soften, and fall asleep to symbols we cannot read, but somehow still understand. For hundreds of years, the cities of the Indus Valley thrived. They built with precision, traded across oceans, drank clean water from personal wells, lived without palaces or prisons. And then, sometime after 1900 BCE, things began to change. The first signs were small, but telling. The quality of construction declined. Bricks, once perfectly sized and uniform, became irregular. Streets filled with debris. Drainage systems stopped being cleaned. Public baths were left dry and cracked. Granaries emptied. Workshops closed. Trade with Mesopotamia halted. And the once thriving cities, Mohenjo-Daro, Harappa, Dholavira, slowly emptied out. There was no great fire, no mass graves, no foreign script scratched over their own, just a quiet unraveling. How does a civilization collapse without war? There is no one answer, only theories, each like a thread, and tonight we will follow each one gently, slowly, without judgment. Theory 1. The river moved. The Indus Valley was born from rivers and may have died by them too. The great Ghaggar-Hakra River, believed by many to be the mythical Sarasvati River of ancient Indian texts, once flowed strongly through the heart of the civilization. But evidence suggests it began to dry up around 1900 BCE. Tectonic shifts may have altered river courses. Satellite imagery shows dried riverbeds near once flourishing cities. Without rivers, irrigation collapsed, crops failed, and people moved east toward the more reliable Ganges basin. Imagine a city where wells run dry, where farmland cracks in the heat, where traders stop arriving. The people leave not in panic, but slowly, a family at a time, a cart at a time, until only silence remains. Theory 2. Climate change. Around the same period, the planet experienced major climate shifts. Evidence shows that the Indus Valley entered a long drought, possibly tied to weakened monsoon rains. Tree ring data, lake sediment, and glacier patterns all point to regional drying in South Asia between 2000 to 1700 BCE. For a civilization that depended on annual rains to feed its rivers, this would have been devastating. Wells would have sunk deeper, crops, wheat, barley, sesame, would have failed. Food would have grown scarce, trade would slow, and the careful balance of daily life would crumble. They may have tried to adapt, digging deeper wells, storing rainwater, moving crops, but in the end, nature may have simply outlasted them. Theory 3. Disease or epidemic. Mohenjo-Daro, in particular, revealed skeletons in the streets, unburied, exposed. Some researchers once thought this was evidence of a massacre, but there were no signs of wounds, no broken bones, no fire. Could it have been disease? A waterborne illness, perhaps cholera, could have spread quickly in cities with compromised sanitation. If maintenance of drains stopped and waste backed up, the result could have been deadly. The lack of burial rituals in some areas suggests people may have fled in fear, unable to honor the dead. And yet, we must be cautious. These skeletons may have been scattered over centuries. The evidence is incomplete. Like the civilization itself, we must sit with the unknown. Shield Theory 4. Invasion or migration. Some older theories claimed that Aryan invaders, a nomadic Indo-European people, swept down from Central Asia and destroyed the Indus cities. This was once widely believed, based on ancient Vedic texts that described a migration and battles with darker-skinned natives. But modern archaeology has found no evidence of violent invasion, no widespread destruction, no layers of ash, no mass weaponry. The decline happened before the Aryans likely arrived. Instead, it's more likely that new peoples migrated slowly, settling in the decaying cities, bringing new languages, customs, and beliefs. Rather than conquest, there was absorption. The Harappan world dissolved into the Vedic, quietly. Theory 5. Systemic breakdown. Perhaps it was none of these alone, but all of them together. As trade declined, resources shrank. As climate shifted, crops failed. As rivers dried, populations moved. As the script was forgotten, knowledge faded. As new people arrived, old traditions changed. The social fabric, once held together by shared systems, rituals, and cooperation, may have simply unraveled. Cities that relied on interdependence became isolated. Without strong central government or military force, the Indus Valley may have lacked the resilience to rebuild quickly. And so, like a vast network of lights flickering out, the civilization dimmed, district by district, city by city, until only quiet settlements remained. What happened after? The people didn't vanish. Many scholars believe they migrated eastward, toward the Ganges River, where the next great Indian civilizations would arise. Their DNA continued, their farming techniques, their worship of water, their reverence for bulls, their quiet strength. Some aspects of Harappan life may have merged into Vedic culture, and later Hinduism. Yoga-like figures, fire altars, the Pashupati seal, all hint at threads woven into India's spiritual future. In this way, the Indus Valley did not die. It transformed. A civilization without a tomb. Unlike Egypt's pyramids or Mesopotamia's ziggurats, the Indus Valley left no tombs to climb, no hieroglyphs to decode, no monuments to men. Its legacy is found in baked bricks, in city grids, in drainage channels, in a child's clay toy found under centuries of soil. It teaches us something rare, that a civilization can be great without being grand, that innovation can be silent, that collapse can be graceful, that memory can be felt, even without words. Tonight, as your eyes grow heavy, imagine the final days of Mohenjo-Daro. The sun setting on cracked courtyards, a potter packing his tools, a mother whispering to her child as she prepares to leave, the wells drying, the markets quiet, the stars above unchanged. And then, nothing but wind, nothing but the soft dust of time, nothing but echoes. Let your breath slow to match theirs. Let your thoughts rest in their silence. Let the civilization dissolve as you fall deeper into sleep. All things come to an end, but not all are forgotten. Some fade into silence, yet leave behind a shape, a rhythm, a memory that never quite disappears. Tonight we walk not through ruins, but through echoes. What did the Indus Valley leave behind? And why, thousands of years later, do we still feel its presence in our bones? The Great Bath is empty now. The seals are cracked. The beads are buried. But something endures. Though the bricks have crumbled and the language is lost, the Indus Valley Civilization never truly vanished. Its soul still moves through rivers, rituals, and generations that followed, quietly, subtly, like a deep current beneath calm waters. And tonight, in this final part of our journey, we reflect. What did this forgotten civilization teach us? Legacy in the land. First, it gave us cities, not just buildings, but organized urban life, grids, water systems, waste disposal, storage zones, public baths, zoning laws before laws even existed. These ideas didn't die when Harappa fell. They evolved, carried into later settlements across South Asia. Even today, in parts of Gujarat, Punjab, and Sindh, you'll find villages that echo the layout of Indus cities. Central courtyards, shared wells, drainage channels carved along dusty roads. The bricks have changed, but the blueprint remains. Legacy in daily life. Much of modern Indian daily life carries subtle traces of the Harappan world. Cotton, likely first cultivated and spun in the Indus, is still worn across the subcontinent. Bangles, beads, nose rings, all styles of ornament traced back to Harappan designs. The clay stove, or chulha, still sits in rural kitchens, much like the ones in ancient homes. Even certain cooking styles, grain choices, and tools reflect a culinary ancestry 4,000 years old. The hands may have changed, but the motions remain. Legacy in water and worship. Water was sacred to the Indus people. They bathed ritually, built wells, managed reservoirs. This reverence still flows through modern South Asia, in the Ganges, in the step wells of Gujarat, in the temple tanks of Tamil Nadu. Water is not just resource, it is ritual. The Pashupati seal, once buried beneath Mohenjo-Daro, may have been a precursor to Shiva, one of Hinduism's central deities. Seated in stillness, surrounded by animals, balanced between worlds, fire altars, meditation poses, mother goddess figures. These aren't copies, but perhaps cultural seeds, carried gently across time into later belief systems. In this way, Indus spirituality was not erased, it was absorbed. Legacy in ideas. The Indus Valley gives us more than artifacts. It gives us a different model of civilization. A model where there were no kings, yet there was order. There were no armies, yet there was peace. There were no monuments, yet there was mastery. There was no written history, yet there was harmony. In a world that often glorifies conquest and hierarchy, the Indus offers a quiet, enduring alternative. Cooperation, balance, Sustainability. They built for function, not for fame. They measured for fairness, not for tribute. They planned for all, not for one. And that, in many ways, is more revolutionary than any empire. Legacy and memory. For thousands of years, no one knew they existed. They were buried beneath sand and time, beneath British railway tracks, beneath silence. It wasn't until the 1920s that Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa began to rise again from the earth. And even now, 100 years later, we still know so little. We cannot read their script. We don't know what they called themselves. We don't know what they believed in the deepest sense, but we feel them. In every straight street, in every city well, in every quiet act of design. We feel them. And in a time when noise often drowns meaning, the calm of the Indus Valley speaks louder than ever. The final thought. Imagine the last light fading over the rooftops of Mohenjo-Daro. A child's footsteps echo in the courtyard. A clay lamp flickers. A woman pours water into a basin. Somewhere a trader counts beads. And then the stars rise. The same stars above you now. The people are gone. The language is silent, but the spirit remains, in rhythm, in respect, in restraint. Let the Indus Valley be a lullaby for the restless mind. Let its peace be your pillow. Let its silence hold you gently as you fall into deep, deep sleep.